Should be going. Waiting for the stream to confirm. Waiting for the stream to confirm. Cool, we are good. Hello stream, I am by myself. Welcome to Bela'Dun and beyond. Unfortunately, nobody else is here because our session 40 didn't record, annoyingly, because I don't know how to set up Twitch properly. But now I'm going to just quickly take you through what happened in session 40, those who wonder, in preparation for session 41, which is going ahead this Tuesday at 6:45. Hopefully everyone is well enough to join us for that one. Otherwise, some mysterious illnesses in-game may occur that stop them from needing to be controlled by me, because that's just too much doing. So I'll run you through session 40 and then we're basically done. There's a couple of things I want to add to the end, but other than that, let's get into it. So the previous session saw the guys and a couple of girls have visions. Actually, just one. It was only Aresia at the time, have visions of something. Whether or not they were true or fake, they don't know. Whether they were present, future, or past, they don't know. And the start of the session saw them entering staggered into this 8th floor, having left the 7th floor where they had their visions. I'm going to drag you over to the 8th floor, which takes a second because Roll20 doesn't like so many maps. Oh, I have to go there too. One sec. So this was the 8th floor. This is obviously as it was when it was done, but ultimately there isn't a whole lot to see here outside of them being there and then leaving. Essentially what they saw was a fountain in the middle of the room with a crystal-like spherical orb floating in water in it. The first one to enter the room was Vice, from what I remember, and I think he touched it, which allowed him to... His eyes glazed over white, and he was looking down upon the top of the tower, essentially seeing from a perspective that is entirely disconnected to where his body was. And yet he was able to have this connection to know where his body was, and as a result of that, work out that there are approximately 6 more floors to this tower. It likely has about 14 floors, and they are on the 8th floor. As they have not massively worked out yet, despite many reminders and messages, there are 2 floors before you hit a doorway or a trapdoor that needs to be activated in some fashion. Magic activates a doorway, and you need an increasingly powerful spell to activate a doorway depending on how high up the tower you are going. The 8th floor saw them needed the use of 4th level magic, which none of them have. That didn't stop them trying, as they bashed their faces and all other things against the door until it eventually still wouldn't open, and they gave up. During this time, the rest of the players came through into the room and were also able to touch the orb should they choose to. Taran was there with his blackened right hand, and he decided to not only touch the orb at one point, but to try and take it. Unfortunately, the device that they were using to search the top of the tower down, and you could also scroll it to view around the forest, had a failsafe if anyone tried to take it, which resulted in him being or suffering some sort of disease, rendering him unable to heal from magical means. And there were some other aspects on it there that I haven't got available to me too quickly. Let's see if I've got it here. He only recovers half health on a rest. And I believe it hit him for 4 days, but I'm probably going to change that to 4 long rests. Although, no, it's kind of the same. I'm probably not going to. We'll leave it there. So, as the rest of the people came in, they touched the orb. Some people realised you could roll it, others didn't. That allowed them to see around the forest. Discussion broke out over their visions, and Aresia was quite... quick to be as quiet about hers as she possibly could. Vice was relatively forthcoming, although left out quite a few bits of information in regards to his vision. And I remember asking him whether or not he was sure at the time. I wanted to make sure that he definitely understood what happened in his vision, and he does. It's just that he didn't want to tell the group, and that wasn't coming across to me at the time, but that's fine. Livia tried to insight check some of the party and see if she could discern anything else, but ultimately only really found out what she could kind of already see. And Taran basically told the entirety of his vision, in that it ended with this figure that was also in Livia's vision, kind of throwing him off of some sort of treetop-based city or town. From that point onwards, the head banging and bashing of faces began as they tried to open the doorway and cut past that. They began to realise that not only could they use the orb to see other parts of the forest and find the clearing that they were supposed to be finding all along for the Stalva military to move up to, but they also saw glimmers of Asteros and Nemea, both of which were under attack by a number of various wood elves that had seemingly found them. Nemea cut off from Asteros as the attack took place in the centre of their camp. They weren't ready for it. Nemea had to head north, and Asteros had to head south. She went northeast, he went southeast, likely reaching the Stalva military for Asteros, and likely reaching far deeper into the forest for Nemea. However, before Nemea could continue on this journey to basically just get lost closer and closer to the center of the Wandering Wood, she found a doorway attached to nothing with a strange glowing light writing some sort of message around the edge of it, much like the others did. And as she was being pursued, she was constantly throwing back spells, cantrips, eldritch blasts, as she's known to do, as are all warlocks. And the door opened for her. She went inside, it closed behind her, the door disappeared. And from that point onwards, the most perceptive of the group, Livia, began to think that she could hear something from downstairs in the tower. As they discussed with each other what was going on and their visions, tried to open the door, tried to use the orb, Taran got poisoned, but diseased. They realised that Nemea was downstairs and eventually all went down. Unfortunately, Nemea hadn't really heard them outside of murmurs and footfall, so she was preparing to attack whoever came down. And when they did come down, she fired off an eldritch blast that she was holding. Fortunately, it was a errant shot, and it just screwed up some of the wall. They regrouped, and the mayor explained that they had been sent on a mission to essentially get information from a wood elf regarding this strange power that is supposedly in whatever town or city or village is in the Wandering Wood that the elves are coming from, the place that the humans of Stalva, and not just humans, a mixture of races but predominantly human, are looking to attack. They were successful. They came across a small camp, killed some of the elves, some of them got away, and they managed to capture one and interrogate him. In doing so, they found out a few things, and I won't go into crazy detail just in case any of the players watch this. Also, we're going to be doing a recap at the start of next session, so even if you don't massively watch this, you're probably going to be caught up. But for the sake of having something to catch you up in the meantime, you know, there's only, 2 days till Tuesday? You'll be fine, but we'll see. She basically found out that whatever this power is, it seems to be celestial in fashion. Seems to be some sort of godlike entity, but far weaker than the known pantheon of gods. This would elf alluded to an actual structure, a city or something of that like in somewhere amidst the center of the Wandering Wood. And he also mentioned a high elf coming to this city and essentially getting power. There we go again. Far quicker than he should have. And becoming one of the top dogs amidst these elven people, faster than anyone has ever heard of before, through the fact that he had brought this power to their midst. Though his intentions amidst the elves has not been made wholly clear, they are seemingly giving him this position nonetheless. From that point onwards, they were attacked and they had to run. She relayed all of this to the party in the tower, and they pretty much found out that wood elves were about to be upon them. Though the entrance of this doorway seems to move because it's the only way that made sense for the party and the mayor to have got into this tower from entirely different places. They began to realize that this doorway to this tower doesn't seem to be locked to one place, especially since it's disappeared before. It seems to present itself somehow in the forest to certain people. How it's choosing them, we don't know. And essentially, there we go again. What we have is the party put back together. Asteros going back to the starving military, hopefully, if he survives. And the party deciding what to do about these elves coming. Because the doorway moves, whether or not they are coming or not was a little bit up in the air. But the fact that they'd seen them through this orb and seen this wave of 20 plus, as Nemea put it, coming towards them, they decided that it's likely that they are coming this way and that they are going to reach this tower. This is much easier when many more people around me are speaking. Also, it's easier when I've been drinking, so I'll keep that in mind for next time. The party moved south at this point. They decided that it wasn't going to help them to hold still, and instead they should leave, and they had a choice really here of where they go when they leave. Nemea thought that there was maybe a couple hours before the wood elves that were pursuing her arrived, but she was uncertain of that in terms of an exact time frame. I had planned for a few things, but fortunately they went with the plan that I was hoping they would go with, which was to go deeper into the forest and hopefully reach this opening, this clearing. And it had been specified that the clearing was near a large lake. I think that put a lot of images in the minds of the players that it was predominantly lake. I see it more as, I'll draw it for you. I see it more as sort of part lake like this, and then part clearing like, that's a terrible color, like this. So there's plenty of clearing, but it kind of gives way to a lake in the corner, which is sizable. You know, if I put that on the map, you're looking at, I don't know, maybe, how far can you walk in a day? Maybe half a day to a day's walk from one side to the other. So it's not a small place. It's definitely big enough to house the military, and it seemingly would serve as a forward base for the military to move into, to then plan their final attack against the elves wherever they may be. They did so, they left. They found themselves to be beset upon almost instantly by a number of wood elves. You guys are going to see the finished map, unfortunately, so you'll see what happened rather than what happened at the start. I'm not going to reset it all back and then set it all back up again for next session, because that would be long since we're starting here. Pretty much what happened here is that the party came out, as you can see. Let me zoom in a little bit more. They came out of the tower. They found themselves in this sort of position. They could not see the tower anymore. And then they had 3 elves. Pretty much the elves in the bottom left. Oh, sorry, they're coloured. It's blue, red, and green. So this guy, come on, and this guy were the only ones there to start with. They took down 2 of them, and as a result, Oresia thought this would be a good time to stand still, essentially, and fight the oncoming horde. I don't think she realised how many were coming, but because she stopped to turn and fight rather than running, which was their initial plan, the rest of the party stopped and turned to fight. As a result, those that were pursuing them but hadn't yet shown up yet, showed up. And you got what we see before us, where many more wood elves of different skills, adornments, creeds showed up. And it looks to have quickly turned, given how many of them have basically no spell slots, how many of them have not got full health, how many of them have blackened hands and a strange tendril disease that they now have as well, which means you can't even heal from magic, which is going to include potions. They decided to stay and fight. I think they're going to need to run. We will see. I am not opposed to a total party kill. And this has probably got the potential to be that. That's where we got up to. The party are currently in the middle of the Wandering Wood somewhere, because they didn't necessarily come out where they went in, depending on where this door appears. And they are now in a position where they can move forwards to this clearing. So I'm just doing a few things. They can move forwards to this clearing, but obviously they're being pursued, so whether or not they get away is going to depend. And I guess we'll find out what happens as a result of that on Tuesday. We did start at 7. We're going to be starting at 6:45 going forwards. The reason for that is that I want to get the recap out of the way before we get into the session so that we can get a solid 3-hour session each week. Couple things to add for the end of this session 40 in prep for 41. Next week, we will be holding a competition. I don't know if sponsored is the right word, but a company called Dragon Slay, sometimes referred to as Dragon Slay Gaming, are sponsoring this competition, and they are giving us a LED mouse mat. So it will have colors around the rim that light up for you. It's pretty big as well, like big enough for your, likely big enough for your whole desk. I've used one like that before. They're pretty sweet. I've got a smaller one now. I'm probably going to switch back. So whoever wins this, I'll be slightly jealous. It's free, of course. The winner gets it for free. All you'll need to do is, when we are playing in session 41, come and join the chat, watch us play, talk in the Twitch chat with anyone else who's there. I tend to look at Twitch chat as well, so I'll be responding a little bit. And we need you to come up with the name of an NPC. So you don't need to worry too much about description or voice or anything like that. Obviously, you know from watching this, the voices I can do are limited and rarely on point. But if you want to include that level of detail, that's fine. There's a strong chance that I'll be using 100% of what you suggest in your submission of what your NPC is, how they act and what they would be called. We're only really limited by what I can pull off. You'll also need to follow Dragon Slay on Instagram, because the winner will be chosen by people who have submitted an NPC and are following Dragon Slay's Instagram. If you don't follow them, you are not eligible. If you do, you are. And obviously you need to submit an NPC name to enter. We'll pick the winner at the end of that session. So in a couple of days' time, at around 10 p.m, we'll pick the winner. That's GMT. And then I'll message that person privately to get their details and make sure that Dragon Slay get everything sent out to them. So that's coming up in a couple of days. Hopefully this has been useful. I know it's mostly been me babbling and saying the word essentially over and over again, but hopefully it was good. I will be moving this over to YouTube shortly, and yeah, bye stream.